The most famous wild child of all is the wild boy of Aveyron. In the year 1800, the people of La Bassine, France, caught glimpses of a naked boy living wild in the forest.
Before any speculation takes hold, let's trace what science actually tells us about language, memory, and human perception. We often hear sensational stories that a child suddenly spoke in an extinct tongue or recalled words no one taught them. In this case, there is a tale of a boy, sometimes named Harold Jarosky, who allegedly, under hypnotic regression, spoke in a language thought to be dead. Such stories spark fascination. The idea that words from lost civilizations could resurface in a child's mouth, unbidden, unintentionally. But what do rigorous disciplines like linguistics, archaeology, and neuroscience say about such claims? Can memory, regression, or suggestibility explain it? Or is something deeper at play? Over the next several minutes, we will examine the origins of this claim, the evidence for and against it, the scientific community's response, and why, despite vivid reports, the notion of a child speaking an extinct language remains outside accepted science. And along the way, I'll compare how narratives of memory resemble restoring an old classic American car. You polish and rebuild, but you can't manufacture parts that never existed. The story of Harold Jarosky has sent chills through paranormal circles for decades. Accounts tell of a young boy who, under hypnosis, began speaking or recalling words from a language that seemingly had no living speakers. He would refer to an imaginary place called Lochaber, asking for things as though he had known this land in a previous existence. The words he spoke matched no known vocabulary, giving rise to claims that he might have been channeling a past life. These narratives circulated widely in paranormal books and magazines, capturing the imaginations of those intrigued by the possibility of reincarnation. Yet the accounts were never substantiated through verifiable documentation, peer-reviewed studies, or credible witnesses such as trained linguists or historians who could confirm either the words themselves or their purported meaning. No recordings, written corpora, or academic publications exist to support the claim that Jarosky truly spoke a preserved or extinct tongue, leaving the story suspended between fascination and skepticism. When it comes to the idea of decoding a language, the scientific understanding is precise and rigorous. In linguistics, decoding involves reconstructing a language's grammar, lexicon, and phonetics using surviving texts, inscriptions, or comparative methods with related languages. For languages that are largely lost, scholars rely on inscriptions, archaeological contexts, ancient texts, or cognate languages to piece together meaning. There is no established linguistic methodology that allows someone to reconstruct or fluently speak an entire language from spontaneous speech alone, especially if the speaker has had no exposure to it. The notion that scientists were left speechless by Jarosky's utterances may dramatize the event, but in mainstream science, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Linguistic plausibility, historical corroboration, and the argument that the speaker could not have acquired the language through ordinary means must all be satisfied before a claim gains credibility. In this case, none of those conditions are met, highlighting a gap between sensational accounts and verifiable science. The process of language acquisition in children adds another layer of intrigue and skepticism. From birth, humans are wired to absorb language through immersion, constantly hearing, repeating, and interacting with their environment. By the first year of life, Infants are already attuned to distinguishing the phonemes of their surrounding languages while discarding sounds that are not used. The critical period for language learning, roughly between ages 5 and 7, shapes the foundation of grammar, syntax, and vocabulary. A child raised in English or Spanish will internalize the rules, vocabulary structures, and idiomatic expressions of that language naturally, but there is no scientific record of a child spontaneously acquiring the complex structures of an unknown or extinct language through regression or hypnosis. Memory and recall can allow a child to repeat phrases they have previously encountered, sometimes without full understanding. But this is far different from producing a coherent, previously unknown linguistic system. Jaroszki's story challenges these foundational principles, which is why it has fascinated both believers and skeptics alike. The chilling element of the narrative lies in the tension between what seems impossible and what science dictates. On one side, there are accounts of a child uttering words from a vanished world, compelling enough to stir the imagination of anyone interested in the supernatural. On the other hand, decades of research in linguistics, cognitive development, and language acquisition provide clear frameworks for understanding how humans learn, process, and produce language. When these frameworks are applied, the idea of a child fluently speaking a language they have never been exposed to stretches credibility. The language they repeat or construct under hypnosis may reflect fragments of sounds they have heard, altered memories, or subconscious creation, rather than genuine resurrection of a lost tongue. Even the most detailed accounts of Jaroszki's words fail to withstand rigorous scrutiny. Without recordings, written examples, or analysis by qualified linguists, it is impossible to compare his speech to any known or extinct language. In scientific terms, what is described as decoding in paranormal literature bears little resemblance to the methods scholars use to reconstruct lost languages. The fascination is understandable. The human mind is drawn to mysteries that defy explanation, particularly when they appear to intersect with the concept of past lives or hidden knowledge. Yet the evidence remains anecdotal, rooted in hypnosis sessions and secondhand storytelling, which makes objective verification impossible. The story also highlights how easily the imagination can fill gaps in understanding. Children, especially under suggestion, may produce sounds and phrases that seem meaningful or foreign. The subconscious mind is capable of generating complex, structured-sounding utterances from fragments of memories, conversations, or even dreams. These utterances may seem extraordinary or otherworldly to observers who are not trained in linguistics or cognitive psychology, creating an aura of mystery. Scientific perspectives insist on testing these claims through systematic observation, reproducible methods, and peer-reviewed analysis. Yet none of these safeguards were applied to the Jaroszki case, leaving the story suspended in a realm that teeters between eerie fascination and uncertainty. In the American context, the story has captured audiences in books, television programs, and online media that explore the unexplained. Its chilling nature comes not just from the possibility of past life memories, but from the challenge it poses to our understanding of human cognition and development. It triggers a deep-seated tension. Could a child unknowingly access a past existence, or are these simply remarkable expressions of a developing mind influenced by imagination and suggestion? Either way, the narrative persists as a cultural touchstone for stories that unsettle as much as they intrigue. keeping viewers and readers on edge, while reminding us how much about the human mind remains both mysterious and profoundly complex. The tale of Harold Jurowski resonates because it operates at the intersection of fear and curiosity, making it a story that unsettles as much as it fascinates. While science demands evidence and rigorous methodology, the narrative continues to evoke a sense of the uncanny, challenging our assumptions about memory, language, and the limits of human experience. Each account, each whispered word from Lochaber, acts as a reminder of the thin line between reality and the unexplainable, leaving audiences captivated, questioning, and more than a little unsettled. The story of Harold Jurowski has haunted paranormal enthusiasts for decades, casting a shadow of mystery over what a child under hypnosis might reveal. The boy, guided through hypnotic regression, reportedly spoke words from a language that had no living speakers, referring to a place called Lochaber, as though it existed in a previous life. The words he spoke had no verifiable translation, creating a narrative that straddled the line between curiosity and disbelief. These accounts circulated widely in paranormal literature, captivating those fascinated by the possibility of past lives. Yet despite the intrigue, no recordings, transcripts, or peer-reviewed analyses exist to substantiate these claims. Linguists and historians, when asked to evaluate the phenomenon, could find no evidence to confirm the authenticity of the language or its meaning. The supposed decoding of a lost tongue remains unverified, leaving the story suspended in a chilling ambiguity that fascinates and unsettles in equal measure. Hypnotic regression, the technique employed to elicit these utterances, is fraught with scientific limitations. The process encourages individuals to recall past events or supposed past lives under guidance, but memory under suggestion is notoriously unreliable. Studies show that hypnosis can produce confabulation, false memories, and statements heavily influenced by expectations, beliefs, or prior exposure to stories. In the case of Jurowski, the boy's supposed linguistic output may reflect subconscious creativity or memories influenced by his environment, rather than evidence of a past life language. Past life claims are not accepted within mainstream science. They lack reproducibility, methodological rigor, and empirical validation. They remain a subject of parapsychology and spiritual literature, captivating audiences while failing to meet the stringent standards of scientific verification. The tension between anecdote and evidence is central to understanding why the story continues to generate debate. Anecdotal accounts can be vivid, dramatic, and highly memorable, but they do not constitute verifiable proof. Science relies on reproducible evidence, audio or video recordings, transcripts, and external validation from qualified experts. In the Harold Jurowski case, there is no existing lexicon for comparison, no recordings, and no documentation subjected to peer review. Linguists examining the supposed utterances find no consistency with phonology or syntax that aligns with known or reconstructible extinct languages. Even the most carefully detailed anecdotes cannot substitute for objective verification. Human memory is fallible, particularly under hypnosis, and can be contaminated by books, media, parents, or the child's unconscious acquisition of foreign or archaic-sounding words. Mishearing, linguistic borrowing, or memory distortion could all contribute to the perception that the boy was speaking a previously unknown language. Further insight comes from studies of language deprivation, and the so-called forbidden experiments, which explore what happens when children are denied exposure to language. Research shows that children deprived of speech input suffer profound cognitive, emotional, and social deficits. Historical cases of feral or isolated children demonstrate the impossibility of spontaneously generating fully developed language systems. These scenarios do not produce extinct or foreign languages. Rather, they highlight the essential role of environmental input in shaping language acquisition. The idea that a hidden or latent storehouse of language exists within a child, waiting to emerge under hypnosis, is contradicted by decades of developmental psychology and linguistic research. Language requires interaction, immersion, and context to form, and removing those elements does not trigger the resurrection of lost tongues. Despite the lack of empirical support, the Harold Jurowski story persists, fueled by human psychology and cultural fascination. Extraordinary claims attract attention, and the notion of a child speaking a lost language evokes a powerful sense of wonder and unease. Cultural beliefs in past lives, spiritual realms, and the supernatural amplify the story's reach. Media sensationalism plays a role as well. Headlines proclaiming that scientists were speechless create dramatic tension and attract viewers, even if the evidence is absent or unverified. Confirmation bias encourages believers in reincarnation or paranormal phenomena to share these stories, further embedding them in popular culture. The story taps into a collective fascination with the unknown, an emotional engagement that sustains its circulation regardless of scientific scrutiny. Critical thinking offers a lens through which to analyze such claims. The first step is examining sources. Is there original documentation? Are there recordings or peer-reviewed studies? Without verifiable evidence, extraordinary claims cannot be substantiated. Alternative explanations must also be considered. The child may have unconsciously absorbed foreign words, repeated memorized phrases, or generated sounds influenced by suggestion during hypnosis. Understanding scientific consensus is crucial. Repeated claims do not equal truth. Science progresses through reproducible, testable data, and without such data, extraordinary claims remain speculative. Linguistic evidence provides additional criteria for assessment. For a language to be credible, phoneme structure, syntax, vocabulary, and historical records must align with what is known or reconstructible. In the absence of such alignment, claims of a resurrected language are treated with skepticism. The haunting allure of the Harold Jurowski narrative demonstrates how easily stories that defy explanation can captivate the imagination. They invite viewers to consider the possibility of phenomena that stretch the boundaries of our understanding, while simultaneously reminding us of the rigorous standards required to validate linguistic and psychological claims. Memory, language acquisition, and hypnotic regression intersect in ways that challenge perception yet remain grounded in established science. Children acquire language through immersion, repetition, and interaction. Critical periods between birth and early childhood shape phonology, syntax, and vocabulary. Memory allows for repetition of phrases previously heard, but it does not account for spontaneous mastery of a language entirely unknown to the child. Hypnotic suggestion can amplify fragments of memory or imagination, producing utterances that appear extraordinary, but they do not substitute for authentic language acquisition. The persistent fascination with Harold Jurowski underscores a human desire to witness the impossible, to encounter phenomena that defy conventional understanding. While science offers clear frameworks for evaluating language, memory, and cognition, stories that fall outside these frameworks maintain a potent grip on public imagination. This narrative challenges assumptions about memory, past lives, and the boundaries of human knowledge. It is a story that unsettles as much as it fascinates, generating a sense of mystery and an eerie curiosity about the mind's capabilities. A careful examination of the story also emphasizes the distinction between observation and interpretation. Anecdotes may appear compelling, especially when they involve children and phenomena that seem beyond explanation. Yet interpretation without documentation can mislead, creating legends that persist in culture long after the factual basis has been questioned. Skepticism, documentation, and critical evaluation are essential tools to separate narrative allure from empirical reality. Ultimately, the Harold Jurowski story remains an intersection of psychology, culture, and human curiosity. It is a tale that provokes thought about the reliability of memory, the mechanics of language acquisition, and the allure of the unexplained. The boy's hypnotic utterances, whether interpreted as past life language or imaginative creation, continue to evoke intrigue, challenging viewers to consider what is real, what is remembered, and what is imagined. The fascination with such narratives reflects not only our interest in the unknown, but also the human need to question, investigate, and understand the boundaries of knowledge. It is a chilling yet captivating exploration of how easily our perceptions can be drawn toward the extraordinary, even in the absence of empirical proof. As we wrap up, it's clear that stories like The Boy Who Spoke a Language That Shouldn't Exist are as captivating as they are misleading. They spark curiosity, they challenge our imagination, and they make headlines that grab attention. But when you peel back the layers, the reality is far more grounded. Science demands evidence, documentation, and reproducibility. And in this case, what we have are anecdotes and hypnotic recollections, not verifiable data. That doesn't mean the story isn't interesting. It's a fascinating lens into human memory, perception, and the ways we construct narratives around the unknown. It also reminds us why critical thinking matters, separating what we want to believe from what the evidence actually shows. And let's face it, just like restoring a classic American car, it's easy to get carried away with the shine and excitement, imagining something perfect from the past. But no matter how beautiful the finish, the engine has to be real, built on a solid foundation. Similarly, when it comes to extraordinary claims about memory, language, or the past, we need the hard evidence. If you found this deep dive compelling, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your curiosity fuels more investigations like this one.